Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time that we actually get to Melee. But there's a little bit of business I need to take care of, because I don't know. Last episode, I've been summoned to some sort of shady location, and now I'm just prepping to go. I don't know, do you think the tie is a little bit too excessive? Seriously, I don't even know how to tie a tie. Ah, this must be the place. Although, something about this does seem kind of off.
You must be the one.
What one? The man with the shiny banana-colored shirt? I mean, at least potassium wouldn't be a problem in the lacquer department.
That's a nice shirt.
Oh, I thank you. I got this ironed out and all that.
Enough of that.
Yes, sir.
You must understand what I'm about to give you with the god's sacred treasure that has been a part of the royal families. One who releases said artifact will cause thousands of years of terror amongst the world.
That does sound serious, so I'll take your word for it. What is it?
Hold on a second. Let's see. It's here somewhere. Let's see. Where is it? Aha!
Really? An amiibo?
Yes. You mustn't release this thing out of its pedestal. But if you do, terrible things will be brought up upon you.
Dude, I literally see Mr. Game & Watch all the damn time. I mean, I just saw him recently over at that GameStop that I just went, in that Retro 3-pack.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. One more thing. I also got these, and you might need them.
Well, considering that you don't seem like a suspicious person whatsoever, and I can trust anybody with shades and a leather jacket, and not to mention some sort of, like, artifact that kind of causes a cataclysm in some way. So, yeah, I'm sold. An amiibo that can cause the entire world to basically go into a crisis. Yet for some reason, I can't help but think that maybe removing its pedestal will do absolutely nothing. You know? Just throwing it out there. But I'm not talking about amiibo that basically causes the entire apocalypse all over the universe. I think it's about time that we actually talk about one of the best games, if not the best games, of the entire decade, and not to mention a very good sequel to a game that I already adore and love, even back on the N64. Super Smash Bros. Melee for Nintendo GameCube. Okay, I'm already starting to get a bad feeling about this amiibo. Well, it's now time to talk about Melee. I mean, what can I say that everyone else has already said? Super Smash Bros. Melee is one of the best, if not the best video games to have ever been made in history. The moment you pop in the game for the very first time, after creating a file that is, you get a beautiful and damn near epic opener to a fighting party game featuring some of Nintendo's all-star cast, with Yoshi's running through a field of somewhere, Samus fighting Ridley, even though that doesn't happen in the actual game, Mario doing a whole bunch of poses, and he, Yoshi, and Peach all encountering the dreaded Bowser Trophy, all culminating with a bomb blowing everything up, and the announcer screaming the name of the game. That was one of the most overblown intros I've seen in any sort of fighting game, or any game rather, that has such an opener that can give you so much to see without telling you that much about it. I mean, just take a look at this crowd over at E3 2001. Now that's an intro that can hype up anybody. However, when it came to development, things were not as hype as it seems. As Sakurai, once again the lead producer of Smash, alongside HAL Laboratories, stated at one point saying that his lifestyle has been nothing but destructive, having to work 40-hour workdays and very, very short weekends. He felt like this was his biggest project at the time, and it clearly shows. I mean, just look at the graphics and the improved mechanics. I mean, obviously the game is still marginally the same, building up percentage by damaging your opponents and smashing them off the stage. Overall, the game itself hasn't changed in the slightest. The difference though is the overall speed and general additions to the fighting. The speed of the game is genuinely quick and snappy. It didn't feel like Sonic fast or hell, even Marvel vs. Capcom fast, but it was a good sense of momentum building up. They also added a fourth special move, which was also a welcome inclusion. Back then you used the standard special even if you point the controller left or right, but with the side special, it can lead some awesome KOs at certain points in the match. It also updated some of the original characters and gave them some new stuff to do. Mario has a cape, Link's boomerang, Ness's PK fire, and Jigglypuff's pound are all now relegated to the side special. Kirby's useless hammer, Yoshi's egg roll, Falcon's uppercut, DK's headbutt, Samus's missiles, Pikachu's skull bash, Fox's flash, and finally Luigi's green missile special, which can sometimes misfire. So does that mean Luigi is his own character now? Also, the way you defend has also changed. You got improved shields, where if you time your shield, you get something called a power shield or a light shield. The latter of which grants you a bigger shield, but when shielding, you slide a little farther away from your opponent with the light shield. Not to mention, you can also sidestep dodge as opposed to regular dodging, and air dodge. Although the air dodge is sort of tricky. Like I said, you can dodge in the air, however, it comes at the cost of your recovery, as it's going to move in 8 directions. You can sometimes find yourself above off of a platform, and over a pitfall, self-destructing yourself, and overall losing the fight in many ways. Though, it did introduce wave dashing, so that's neat. I'm not good at doing it, but it's there. And as an extra note, certain characters can actually wall jump by using the control stick to jump from a wall onto another wall. It sort of feels weird at first, but they would later improve this in Brawl with just the jump button being utilized. And finally, throws can now allow you to pummel your enemies for extra damage while grabbed, and has up and down throws to go along with it. That's just some of the things I noticed with Melee's mechanics. There's an endless barrage of so many techniques and improvements to the core fighting that I ain't gonna go into all of it, otherwise this video will probably be for almost at an hour at best. As for the original 12, they're all back in Melee, ready for round 2. However, 2 oddities already appeared in the starting roster, which is Ness and Captain Falcon. Previously, both of those, alongside Luigi and Jigglypuff, were unlockables. However, they're now on the starting roster, with the exception of Luigi and Jigglypuff, obviously. Falcon's inclusion in the starting roster remains a mystery, but Ness is a peculiar one because at one point he was originally supposed to be replaced by Lucas from Mother 3, and this would have cut Ness from the roster entirely. But due to the fact that Mother 3 was in development hell for the longest time, and that the 2-year development cycle of Melee was constrictive on time, Ness was brought back as a result, though Lucas would get his debut in Brawl. Along with the 12 already in place, there's also an additional 14 newcomers, giving the roster a total of 26 characters, more than double than what 64 have to offer. You got Peach and Bowser representing the Mario series, Peach armed with some sort of explosive in her rear and frying pans, golf clubs, with Toads acting as the counter. She's probably the coolest newcomer to come out because normally you don't really see Peach come out aggressive and this forceful, and not to mention have this many great moves. And not to mention, you also got Bowser, the main baddie of the Mario series. Bowser was originally planned to be in the first game alongside King Dedede, but was never finished due to time constraints and, hardware limitations. Must be them Polygon fighters. But now he's here, and he won the vote! Yeah, back then there was a Smash 2 poll run by Sakurai himself, where players in Japan can get to vote on which character they want to see in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Bowser overall won the vote, and now he's here, and he's really bad. Bowser is slow as molasses, and attacks don't do that much damage onto opponents. Also, when he runs, he acts like a tank. Now that I think about it, I think he also gotten some Godzilla sound clips when he's taunting or just standing still stolen. Zelda makes her playable debut alongside her alter ego Sheik, acting as a transformation for her to utilize mid-battle. Zelda utilizes magic from the 3 divine goddesses of Hylia, Din, Furore, and Naru. While Sheik has her Sheikah traits of stealth and fast-paced close-quarters combat, she also has a chain, which is kind of pointless, but hey, you can do this and... We'll get to the other representatives in the Zelda universe in a little bit. Representing the Pokemon franchise is newcomer Mewtwo, a legendary Pokemon that is one of the few unlockables that you can get in this game by simply playing 20 hours on Melee? Done. He's a powerful glass cannon, but honestly, he's not really that viable. Though it's really awesome to see his inclusion in the Smash games because, alongside Pikachu, Mewtwo's also a very popular Pokemon in the limelight in terms of the fans' perception. And rumor has it that he was planned for Smash 64 alongside King Dedede and Bowser. However, of the three, Mewtwo was the only character to have no development whatsoever made on him to be in the original game. Well, now he's here, but he kinda sucks, though he's still awesome. Alongside them are the NES representative, being brought back from Nintendo Purgatory, those being the Ice Climbers, a newfound personal favorite of mine, and Mr. Game & Watch from the LCD games of the same name. Ice Climbers, like I said before, are my new favorite characters. Now, I like my Yoshi here and there, but man, Ice Climbers are pretty unique given the fact that it's technically two characters in one. Popo, the main player, and Nana, controlled by the AI, follows whatever the player just did in terms of actions. Although if Nana is out, all that's left is Popo, and he's kinda okay-ish, but overall, I love these two. And not to mention, like, just the amount of stuff you can do with them is just insane. As for Game & Watch, well, he's just flat. He moves around like if he were in an LCD game. His frames are choppy at best, sometimes laggy, but he's also an interesting sort since he's actually a character that's 3D, but his Z-axis was set to 0 to give the illusion of 2D. Also, his stage is also pretty cool. However, the most obscure out of all these characters at the time was Marth from Fire Emblem. Marth's inclusion in the Melee roster was due to the amount of requests that Japanese players were giving to Sakurai to include him into the roster. Sakurai did finally add Marth into the roster. However, Marth was actually going to be a Japanese exclusive fighter in the Japanese version of Melee. However, a Nintendo of America employee actually considered keeping Marth on the roster as is and release it worldwide. And due to Marth's success in Melee, Nintendo welcomed many new players in the West to a series that was once Japanese exclusive onto the whole world, starting with the 7th entry in the series, simply titled Fire Emblem for GBA, also known as Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade. Marth is pretty much another swordsman in the roster, but with an interesting tipper mechanic. If hit, essentially, his weapon deals more damage when at the tip of his blade, and weaker when it's at the base, which can lead to some pretty weird spikes in terms of his down air. Though, still, he looks badass, and not to mention, he has the most beautiful eyes an anime character would ever have. Now, aside from the eyes, I only mentioned 8 of the newcomers. Each of them have different movesets and overall felt a totally different character during gameplay. But not these 6. Due to the 2-year cycle, the time constraints built upon Sakurai and the gang, and not to mention the amount of requests for more characters, Sakurai had to implement certain characters as clones. Those being Dr. Mario, who's a clone of Mario, Falco from Star Fox, who's a clone of Fox, Young Link from Zelda, who is a clone of Link, Ganondorf from Zelda, who is strangely enough a clone of Captain Falcon of all characters. Roy is a clone of Marth, as most of his damage multipliers are at the base of the sword rather than the tip, and Pichu is a clone of Pikachu who hurts himself and I never use him. Ever. Because it's a baby Pokemon and it's useless. And this is a part of the video where we must explain what a clone is. To put it simply, a clone is a character in a fighting game that usually carries over the same body and attributes that, even though it looks different, it's generally the same in terms of mechanics as the parent character that is given to said clone, though slightly altered in a way to make them feel slightly different. And this wasn't the first time Smash Bros. Has implemented clones in the past. In 64, Luigi was a clone of Mario, and you can even bring it back to Street Fighter when it comes to Ryu, Ken, Akuma, Evil Ryu, Oni, Dan. Okay, wait, hold on. How many Ryu clones are we gonna get? This is a little bit too much. So seeing all these clones in Smash, it's understandable as to why they're here. They were requested so many times, and given the time constraint, this is the state they were in. That's not to say it's a bad thing. I enjoy playing as Falco, even though Fox is a better choice. And Roy is also a very popular character in the Smash community. In fact, this is actually his very first video game appearance ever. Roy's inclusion in Melee was a way to promote the 6th entry in the Fire Emblem series, which he has a leading role in, called Fire Emblem The Binding Blade. But the inclusion of clones does raise an eyebrow, and it gets them in a big discussion. I personally think it's alright. Okay, so that's enough about the characters. Let's talk stages. The original had 9 stages in total, one being unlockable, which is the Mushroom Kingdom stage. Melee has double the amount of stages, as well as 11 unlockable ones. 2 are previously locked off stages from the original, which are the Final Destination and Battlefield stages, while 3 of the unlockable stages are returning from Smash 64, with Dreamland 64, Yoshi's Island 64, and Congo Jungle 64. And, would you believe it? These past stages kept the same graphics as its original N64 counterpart. But that's not to say that these new stages aren't bad either. They're actually pretty stellar if you ask me. Shoutouts to the Fountain of Dreams, Pokemon Stadium, Mute City, Temple for the amounts of fun it can have, especially the bottom level of the stage, and Yoshi's Story. I just love the aesthetic of the storybook motif from the game itself. It's really adorable. Though, one type of stage that I certainly cannot stand, it's auto-scrollers. Rainbow Cruise, Poke Floats, and especially Icicle Mountain. Sometimes it cranks up the speed and other times it just slows down. Also, it's not that very good looking of a stage. It's one of the more boring stages on the list, and not to mention it's pretty bad. Not to mention the Corneria stage is reused from Sector Z, although placed in Corneria, but then they reused the Corneria stage and turned it into the Venom stage, and all they did was flip the Gray Fox face first and put it on Venom. Sounds like Andros got the crappy end of the rental space for Smash Brothers. And as for Splatstone, like I said before, it's a cool stage, but at the same time, it's not really that good. It's unique as it flattens everyone onto a Game & Watch handheld, which was pretty cool, but the environment of the stage is nothing but ratchets, wrenches, and screwdrivers, which can sometimes one-hit KO you. And it's very small. Very, very, very tight and compact. Though, it is a handheld game, so it's sort of excused. I don't know, it's not really a good stage. But overall, I could just basically say that some of these stages can either be a mixed bag, a terrible experience, an awesome match, or just leads in some absurdity due to the AI at times. But they are different from one another, even if Yoshi's Story, Fountain of Dreams, Dreamland, Battlefield are pretty much one of the same, if you could say that much, even though they play a little bit differently. As for the modes themselves, well, Melee's got a lot more to offer this time around, introducing a slew of new types of matches and ways to play. In Versus mode, you still have the regular experience with time and stock battles, but in addition to 2 returning battles are the coin battles, in which the player is tasked to acquire the most coins by, of course, finding the opponent. Coins come in 3 varieties, those being copper, silver, and gold, and as you would have guessed, the rarer the coin, the more value it has. You can also knock out opponents to cost a whole lot of coins, but don't expect any coins to fly up or down to you when you star KO or just spike them in the end. At the end of the match, the person to accumulate the most coins is the winner. But coins battles aren't the only new mode. There's also the bonus battle, which basically brings the classic mode bonuses and shove them in the versus mode. They give you points based on the bonuses you receive, which also includes a bunch of anti-bonuses that will subtract your total score. Essentially, the more you perform well in the match, the higher the score. It acts like a time battle, but it's the only time this mode was ever an option, as later Smash games would remove said bonuses entirely. So what I'm saying is, don't play it. In addition to 2 new battle types, there's also the special melee option, which offers different types of versus battles, whether it's a giant or tiny battle, an invisible battle, which sucks, a battle where you can only use the A button, why did they even put that there? A fixed camera perspective match, and a stamina mode where you can transform Smash like it's a traditional fighting game, with HP instead of percentages, so just like Master Hand, except every character can have HP now. Then you also got the Tournament Melee, which is a pretty much a makeshift bracket maker. I wonder if the early days of competitive Melee actually used this feature. I doubt it. What you do is you create your bracket, set the amount of players if need be, choose your type of match, pick your amount of human and computer players, choose from the tournament, winner out or loser out, pick your difficulty on the CPU, select how the stages would be picked, and create the tournament roster with all their alternate colors and names included. Yep, you can actually make a name tag for your specific profile. Granted, it's only 4 letters, but it appears all the time when you're playing multiplayer or even in single player. And speaking of single player, last time we had at least 3 modes. One was a repetitive ladder climb with the same opponents and some very fun bonus stages. In Melee, not only is the 1-player mode has been renamed to Classic mode, but we also got new modes in the form of Adventure, All-Star, which has to be unlocked first, Event Matches, and Stadium. Classic keeps the same formula as before, only now it's actually randomized for every character, though there is a pattern in terms of stages 2, 5, 8, and 10. Stage 2 is a 2-on-2 fight with a random ally that you usually get every so often. Stage 5 is a giant battle, which gives you 2 allies against a giant enemy. Stage 8 is a team battle where you face multiple clones of the same character. And Stage 10 is going to be a metal battle, which is just a metal form of a character. Same as before, you go from fight to fight, break some targets, snag some trophies, keep fighting your way through, and eventually you'll make it to Master Hand once again. Or do you? See, if you put the game on normal difficulty or higher and get there under a specific time limit, and after depleting Master Hand's HP in half, out comes Crazy Hand. This maniacal, crazy left hand. And he's a clone. So even the bosses aren't immune to the cloning process of Melee. But his moves are somewhat different, a la attributes flipped around just to make them more powerful, and even get some new moves entirely. After battle, you get the results screen, you get a trophy of said fighter, shoot a bunch of credits, get a little FMV package, and a postcard saying congratulations. We'll get to the trophies in a bit, but for now, it's adventure time! No, not that, though that is a good show. I said previously that board of the platform should come back as a way to challenge the player on awareness in terms of surroundings and when to utilize jumps and recoveries. In adventure mode, though, this feels like board of the platform's jacked up into something more expansive, which is a great improvement, but instead of character-specific stages, where each character has to go through their own obstacle course, here it's traveling through many Nintendo-based locations. Almost every stage has a level and fight, though some only just get battles, which kind of stings. Stage 1 is the Mushroom Kingdom stage, where you have to go through the stage, fight 10 Yoshis, reach the goal, and then the next part you fight Mario and Peach, or Luigi if certain conditions are met. Stage 2 is Congo Jungle, fight 2 small DKs, and then a giant DK afterwards. Stage 3 requires you to go through a maze full of monsters to locate the Triforce, but come across a Master Sword, Link will pop out and try to take out one of your stocks away. After fighting the Triforce, you fight Zelda and or Sheik, depends on the situation. Stage 4 puts you in a fight against Samus, and after that you end up trying to escape from Planet Zebes in a pod. Failing to do so will result in loss of stock. Brinstar blows up, and out in the distance is Planet Popstar, which leads into Stage 5, which players are tasked to fight Kirby, 15 Kirbys with copy abilities, and, if lucky enough, you fight a giant Kirby. So many Kirbys. Stage 6 is on top of the Great Fox in Corneria, where Fox acts like a coward and tries to run away. The next part is sort of odd. Peppy, Slippy, and Falco will come out and try to protect Fox while also trying to hinder him during the rematch. And Fox is actually more aggressive this time around. However, Falco can also appear in this battle, though no special requirements are exactly detailed. After you unlock him, he just shows up at any given moment, while Fox is laid down in his R-Wing shooting at Falco for what he did on Sector Z. Stage 7, you're in the middle of the Pokemon Stadium with 12 Pikachus. If unlocked, Jigglypuffs and Pichus can also appear as well, and all you have to do is throw Pokeballs and use Pokemon to eliminate all 12 opponents. Stage 8 is the F-Zero Grand Prix. You're in the middle of what appears to be Big Blue, and all you have to do is reach the goal while avoiding the F-Zero racers at all costs. Then later on, you'll face Captain Falcon on Mute City. Stage 9 is Zonette, where you face off against 3 Nessus and Mr. Saturn's dropped in like some sort of alien invasion. Eliminate those 3, and then you head on to Stage 10, which is Icicle Mountain, and you have to gradually climb the mountain, but must survive 51 seconds until 2 pairs of ice climbers appear, and you have to fight them. I hate the stage, I hate the stage, I hate the stage. Also, Topies and Polar Bear come around and basically try to kill you. Why are polar bears wearing sunglasses and freaking swim trunks in the middle of winter? Stage 11 is the battlefield, where it's another team battle, but with wireframes, which are clones of Captain Falcon and Zelda saying special maneuvers. My god, so many clones! Up B to win, and then the next battle will be against Metal Mario from Smash 64, but much more aggressive this time around, and not as dumb. Although, if Luigi is unlocked, then Metal Mario gains a new partner in the form of Metal Luigi. Though... yeah, sometimes that happens. The final stage is Final Destination, where the final battle is against a much more stronger and larger Bowser. But since Bowser is so slow and huge, he became easy pickings and the adventure is over. Or is it? See, if you make it under 18 minutes, play this on normal difficulty or higher, and not use a single continue, then Bowser's trophy will rise from the perpetual pitfall of hell and transform into a more grotesque version of himself known as Giga Bowser, which is just more vicious Bowser with status effects built into him, and not to mention, he's gargantuan, so a more powerful version of Bowser? I don't know. You tell me. Is he a clone or not? You ask me. After all is said and done, you get the results screen, and you also get the same rewards as you did in Classic mode. Trophy, credits, FMV, and a postcard, something funny to look at. Along the way during Adventure mode are also some enemies from the Nintendo games they represent. The Mushroom Kingdom has Goombas, Koopa Troopas, and Paratroopas, while the Underground Maze has Redeads, Octoroks, and Light Legs, and Icicle Mountain, like I said, also have Topies and Polar Bears with sunglasses and pink swim trunks. Seriously, why do they have them on? But yeah, this mode's a lot of fun, and also builds a little sense of curiosity when it comes to colliding the many worlds and so many characters into one little package. Like, what if Link suddenly wound up in Mario's world? Or how can Yoshi win the F-Zero Grand Prix with just his egg roll? Hell, use that same knowledge with Captain Falcon just running on the track, because with him, he doesn't really need a vehicle. He is the vehicle! Though, much like the one-player mode back on the N64, it does get repetitive in the long run, with meeting certain requirements to spice up the adventure at some times, but unlike 64, it's actually more fun, to say the least. And then there's the All-Star mode, and this is pretty much a take on Kirby's Arena mode, in which you fight the entire roster and have limited recovery items in the form of the heart containers. And just like Classic mode, the All-Star mode is entirely randomized. You'll go through fights one-on-one, but as you progress even further into the mode, the more opponents you face. After 4 one-on-one battles, you do another 8, but this time with 2 opponents instead of 1, and then after those battles, you then get put in a 1-on-3 situation. When you defeat an opponent, they are eliminated and turned to trophies, and you move on to the next fight. All these fights, like I said, are pretty much randomized with every single new run through of All-Star, with the exception of Mr. Game & Watch, where he's always the last character you face against. And, to say the least, it's only a team battle against 25 Game & Watches. That's about it. All-Star is done, shiny statue, names in space, Sega CD plug, and goofy picture. And after you get done with all these modes, why not take a break and go to the stadium? In it includes 3 modes. Target Test, which is just break the targets from Classic mode, but with more character-specific courses for every character, to test one's knowledge of a character's moveset if they haven't done so in Classic mode on Stage 3. Home Run Contest is a new mode introduced in Melee, which has the player attack a sandbag relentlessly and then proceed to hit him with a baseball bat just to see how far he can go. And finally, there's Multi-Man Melee, which can go up to 100-man Melee, 15-minute Melee, or even Cruel Melee. These are just endurance challenges to see how far you'll go into either completing them or surviving for the longest amount of time. And there's Cruel Melee. I think the title speaks for itself. But that's not all single player has to offer, because there's also the event matches. Now, these matches are really cool, with specific win conditions, and each mission is different than the other. One tasks you to defeat a giant Yoshi, another includes Link and Samus utilizing their bombs at all times, and all the items are bomb related. One event has Bowser and DK battling as Godzilla and King Kong. Aha! I knew it! Eliminating 128 tiny little Marios, Falcon and Falco teaming up against Fox, and Samus and Captain Falcon competing to see who can defeat Bowser the fastest. And finally, the last event, which puts you against Mewtwo, Falcondorf, and Giga Bowser from Adventure Mode into a 1-on-3 match. There are so many events that can truly test you and maybe even get a character you normally don't play as and have some fun with them. Even so, there are some events that are frustrating to deal with, such as Event 35, where Dr. Mario and Peach are eviscerating poor Luigi during his checkup. Nothing like a good baseball bat will sort this out. To Event 21, where you have to knock out Nana, but not Popo. If you accidentally KO Popo, you automatically fail. And since one of the ice climbers are gone, and if that one is Nana, and Popo is close to getting eliminated, and since the single ice climber's recovery is very weak, he goes down with her, automatically causing a failure. And then there's the trophy tussles. Alright, finally I get to talk about these trophies. In the original Smash Bros., the characters were portrayed as dolls. In Melee, all the characters are now trophies with a sentient mind in one of them. You get a certain amount of things done, you get a trophy. In the All-Star mode, several trophies can appear at certain intervals in between matches at the rest area. Classic mode, Snag the Trophies bonus game, allows you to knock 3 apiece in the middle of the stage. Race to the Finish also has trophies to collect. Adventure mode also has trophies whenever you KO an enemy, or just find one lying on the ground. Or you could just basically buy them through the lottery using the coins. Coins are basically your currency for playing the game, but fundamentally, these trophies are just collectibles you get in-game. You can look at them in great detail, you can even read fun facts about them, which game they came from, and not to mention just look at them. That's about it. As for certain other trophies, you have to get them via completing Classic, Adventure, and All-Star with all playable characters, or in the events, there are the Trophy Tussles, which can nab you a Goomba, Entei, and a Majora's Mask trophy, respectively. Though, whatever challenge you had going on here, it's just completely thrown out of the window. Even though it's everyone against everyone, they still attack you as a unit. Everyone in these events is just off the walls busted. Goomba stage is fine and all, but when you go to the Entei stage, one of the characters is literally sitting on top of Entei's head while the others duke it out and protect him, and then once he does come out, he just knocks you out immediately. And then there's Majora's Mask. Infinite City Galore. Just 3 words I could basically describe how the Majora's Mask trophy tussle goes. I barely made it out of Majora's Mask at around 224% with Fox. On my last stock, no less. That is how insane it will go for any of these trophies. It's just ludicrous if you ask me. And after all is said and done, you get to relax and enjoy looking at your virtual cabinet of trophies, or play a mini version of I Spy. That, or just go back to the main game and spam Pokemon like it's no other. I gotta be the very best! Speaking of Pokemon, we actually got some new ones since the 2nd generation was out during this time, which means more Pokemon to attack the playable Pokemon. We got Meryl, who just slaps across the stage, Chikorita with her Razor Leaf, Staryu pre-evolved from Starmie from Smash 64 using Swift, and even the legendary dogs, Entei, Suicune, and Raikou, and not to mention the legendaries of Gold and Silver, Lugia, and Ho-Oh. If you get any of the legendary Pokemon, they deal massive damage, and not to mention just basically helps you in a pinch. In addition to the new Pokemon being included, new items have also been brought in, such as Lipstick, which grants a flower that damages the player over time. The Super Scope, which was a peripheral for the Super Nintendo, can fire rapidly but can potentially KO when fully charged. The Warp Star, that somehow is finicky to control at first, but has devastating explosions when landing, potentially KOing them instantly. Not to mention you also got Screw Attacks, Super Mushrooms, Poison Mushrooms, which looks like Super Mushrooms, but they make you tiny, and even the Metal Boxes from Super Mario 64 that can adjust your knockback defenses and increase KO potential. As always, these items can be turned off at any given time, which is pretty much what most people do anyways nowadays. But yeah, honestly, that's it for Melee in terms of features. But is it though? See, what I actually noticed was some weird quirks with the game as a whole. And if you really think about it, the game only had like 2 years in development. Surely some things were left unchecked or not even properly ironed out. I mean, the game looks great, don't get me wrong, and not to mention every single character looks great, with the exception of Pichu, because after playing as him, I'm pretty sure I don't want to ever see it out of its Pokeball. But yeah, like, some of these things, like, I just find a little funny, and they're just little nitpicks, all things considered. But whenever someone is a giant character in classic mode, all of a sudden they fall. Was it the blast zone being too small for them? I mean, we're at a small little stage, same goes for the metal fights. At one point they're a pain in the ass to maneuver around, and at other times, they just drop harder than a collapsing building. Also, why is that Yoshi can't grab properly? I mean, he goes right through him. Oh wait, it's because his head's tilting slightly, thus missing his mark. But his tongue still goes through Mario and Marth. How? And not to mention Kirby's throw are also inconsistent. Then again, Kirby is nothing what he was compared to Smash 64. Most of the time, if not all the time, your opponent just escaped from Kirby's grasp. And even sometimes, it can outright kill you if your opponent escapes, and then you get straight down to an SD. Meaning, if you forward throw with Kirby, and you're somewhere near the ledge trying to self-destruct yourself while also KOing the opponent can somehow jump out of that grab, and basically just get Kirby killed. And overall Bowser. Nothing wrong with him. He's just bad. Oh, but of course, those reflectors of Fox and Falcos. They are incredibly broken as heck. All these problems could be relegated to the 2 years Sakurai had to make Melee. But at the same time, considering what came out, It's actually truly remarkable. I could say that even though Melee has some technical flaws that would be later fixed, but kind of regarded in lesser light than any other Smash game, I still say this is currently a great sequel, and not to mention better than the original itself. And I can see why this is praised so heavily. The amount of content it offers is immensely welcoming, the new modes are really good, the stages are a welcome addition, not to mention the roster is pretty damn great, all things considered. Aside from clones, of course. And again, the fan servers, as always, tends to keep me coming back to this series as a whole. And this is a little bit of a personal note here. This is the game that actually got me introduced to Zelda for the very first time. Yep, this is probably a shock considering I grew up around the end of the Super Nintendo era and onto the dawn of the N64 era. Yet, I never played Ocarina of Time, and I never played Majora's Mask. And here I am. I played Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time 3DS, Link Between Worlds, Twilight Princess, and then finally Breath of the Wild. It basically gave me an introduction to Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, and many other characters that we would come and encounter in Zelda, even to this day for me. And like I said previously in the Smash Bros. 64 review, Super Smash Bros. Was a game for me in a way to get introduced to many Nintendo series. And some would take a while, some I already know instantly, and though it did take me a while to get to Metroid at some point still stands. So again, if you haven't played Melee now, it's obvious that you should try it out. You won't be disappointed. It's a really good fighting game, and like I said previously, it's a great game to play with friends. And it's also a good time for solo players as well. So yeah, some things are left unchecked in terms of short-term development cycles, but at the same time, what came out of those 2 years is pretty damn amazing. I mean, come on. Like, you got two new modes, you got event matches, you got stadium matches. I mean, yeah, they don't mean anything compared to the main game whole product, but at the same time, it's also really, really just this amazing smorgasbord of amazing content. I mean, you got versus mode, you got special mode, you even got tournament Melee. And like I said before, all the single player stuff, which is basically more plentiful than ever before. So yeah, while it's mainly a party game and a fighting game at the same time, while also catering to multiplayer reasons, I still say it's a really fun game if you're going at it single player wise. And not to mention, it's a really damn good game. I mean, the graphics, and not to mention the music. I haven't even gotten a chance to talk about the music at all. Most of them are remixes and other iconic themes just put into stages and all that, but man, they really outdid the soundtrack this time around. And of course, that fucking opening! So as a whole, that's pretty much it for Melee. Tune in next time when... Actually, wait. We need to do something about this. I don't know, guys. This seems kind of preposterous, but I mean, what's gonna happen? I'm just gonna remove it from its little stand here, pedestal, whatever you want to call it, and then just call it a day. That's about it. I mean, I'm not that crazy, right? I mean...